A new book, Michael Doran's book, Ike's Gamble, is the story of the Suez Crisis and also the education of an American president about Israel as the ally. Michael, congratulations and good evening, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you at length of your book soon enough. But tonight, Malcolm wants to take us to your explication. And I've not done my homework yet, Malcolm. I'm still dealing with the American Indian Wars, right? I'm several books away from this.
Yeah, but you got out of the Greek Wars.
I'm looking forward. I got out of the Greek Wars, and I moved away from others, but I'm looking forward to this. But the thesis that in the Suez Crisis, Dwight David Eisenhower received an education about Israel. Good evening to you, Michael.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you, and this is one of the conclusions that we'd like to come to. But first, could you one of the theses or sub-theses of the book is the comparison between what happened then, and as John rightly says, it's a blink of an eye historically, and what is happening now, especially in the Middle East, and what the lessons and the parallels that you think that period bears for us today.
Well, both President Obama and President Eisenhower, I think, came into office with the notion that the United States was too close to Israel, and that was especially true of President Eisenhower. I don't think there's been an administration that felt more strongly that Israel was a strategic liability, and so the President Eisenhower intended to move away from Israel in order to court Arab nationalism in general, but specifically Egypt, Nasser's Egypt. He thought that if he showed the Egyptians that he was not in the pocket of the British imperialists and not in the pocket of the Zionists, he could open up a space to pull the Arabs toward the United States in the Cold War. And he followed the logic of that policy all the way from the moment he took office in January '53 up through the Suez Crisis, expecting some kind of strategic benefit, but what he got was the empowerment of Egypt, who took all of the concessions that the United States gave to it, and tremendous disruption in the region. And he realized, before he left office, he realized his mistake.
And he came to the conclusion then that it was Israel, not Egypt, that would ultimately be the ally of the United States? Is that the conclusion?
Yes, that's what he recognized. He recognized that that Israel was a force for stability, a pro-Western force, and one that could be relied upon. In particular, that it played a good role with respect to the stability of Jordan, which faced the same set of enemies. It faced destabilizing enemies in Egypt and in Syria. And he recognized that Israel was working for the stability of the Western-oriented powers.
But his actions somehow strengthen America's enemies, and that certainly has parallels to today. I mean, lessons for today.
Well, I certainly see a strong parallel. I didn't. In the book itself, I just had a story to tell, and I thought it was a very interesting and compelling story, and I didn't want to yoke it to a contemporary political thesis. So I stopped short. I leave it to the reader to draw the connection, but I saw a strong connection between Eisenhower's policy toward Egypt and President Obama's policy toward Iran.
A puzzle, Michael, and we'll do this. Once I read the book, I'll have more information, but I'm going from Simon Hall's book on 1956. Several things of crisis proportion happened in 56. One of them was the secret speech in late February of 56 when Khrushchev announced that Stalin had been a mass murderer, and all the little Stalins of the Eastern European regimes, I'm thinking of Poland and Czechoslovakia in particular, were shaken to the point that there were revolutions, and the revolution came to Hungary that year. All of that darkened the Cold War, turned us into an apocalyptic conversation. Did that, and I don't have knowledge of your book, whether you explored that, did that connect to Eisenhower? Did that push him towards Israel because of the aggression of the Soviet forces as they stomped their stooges?
Well, I didn't investigate closely the connections and the strange cross currents between, or the complex cross currents between the Hungarian uprising and the Middle East. I did it a little bit, but I'll just tell you what I understand.
We've got about 40 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, number one is the de-Stalinization speech helped the Israelis because it was the Mossad that first got wind of it and passed it on to the West.
Okay.
So Israel's value as an intelligence asset increased considerably, and then secondly, it angered Eisenhower greatly that the British, French, and Israelis attacked Egypt simultaneously at the same time that the Soviets were crushing Hungary, because he felt it took the moral high ground away from the West.
And exactly, and it did. And by the way, he was trying to get reelected while this was going on.
That's a very important point.
Right.
Yes, he was trying to make election speeches, and he's got a rush because the UN's got two crises at once. Michael Doran, his book is Ike's Gamble, America's Rise to Dominance in the Middle East, Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents. Michael, I look forward to our conversation. I'm John Batchelor.